Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and it's time for another gaming vlog. Let's hit it. Okay, so this gaming vlog, I have got a lot to talk about. So strap yourselves in because this could be a long video, and if you are not a fan of long videos, I apologize, but there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and I think it's all important. So, for those that have not watched these before, this is my gaming vlog series where I talk about what I'm doing in gaming, and we then talk about in the comments below. We go back and forth and talk about maybe what you're gaming, and you tell me about things that maybe I should be looking at gaming-wise, and we have that dialogue going back and forth, and I think it's great. So, for me, in my two groups for tabletop role playing that we have here at the tavern, I'll start with Pathfinder. With our Pathfinder group, we are, I think I told you on the last vlog that I'm playing a rogue who is kind of doing the Master of Disguise thing, including two separate personalities that he plays, his regular persona, and then he has an alternate persona and all that. Well, long story short, we're in a tomb, and we get to what we believe is the end boss, and it's a necromancer lich type guy, and he has what we think is a familiar there. He has a cat. That's how the DM described it to us. And so there's some dialogue, goes back and forth and whatnot, and then combat starts. So in the combat, everybody's focusing on the lich, necromancer, or whatever, because we're thinking he's gonna, do us in if we don't get him down quick, So I'm maneuvering to try and get behind him for backstabbing, surprise attack, and flanking and all that stuff. And everybody else is trying to do damage to him and everything. And we're not paying a whole lot of attention to this stupid little cat. We're thinking it's just a familiar, right? That was our mistake. Because the cat, I don't remember what exactly the creature was when we finally did get it down. But it almost TPK'd us. Because the cat had an anti-magic field around it. So no spells could be cast towards it, and if you got within melee range to it, none of your magic shit would work. It was bad. So we finally got it done, but that was a close one. So the lesson here is, and the DM did a fantastic job too, because he made the assumption that everybody would focus on the mage guy, and that's what we did. And so, whether it was by design or not, it was well done. So there's your D&D / Pathfinder lesson for the week, is that don't ignore the familiar, or what you think is the familiar. Okay, so in our D&D group, we are still in the Dwarven Fortress, the abandoned Dwarven Fortress. And, of course, I'm playing the dwarf barbarian, Grunt Furbelly, and I am convinced that if I can successfully sit on the throne, that the denizens that are in there are these statues that animate if someone sits on it, and they attack basically whoever tries to sit on it. And I'm thinking, well, I'm a dwarf. They should recognize me as the new king because it's a vacant throne, etc., etc., and that hasn't worked so far. But we're getting deeper into the dungeon now, and my character is still convinced. Maybe if I find the crown, I can put that on instead, and by God, I'm going to be the Dwarven king. And then I'll be able to go back to my clan that I was exiled from and say, well, now you have to accept me back because I'm the Dwarven king. At least that's what's going through my character's mind. So that's what's going on there. So far, not the king. Okay, that leads me into computer stuff, PC gaming. So, 2 games have been consuming my time on the computer. And one, yeah, World of Warcraft. I know, everybody says the same thing. You know, it's like being addicted to booze or crack or something else. You every once in a while you fall off the horse or fall off the wagon, you know, and I fell off the wagon. I'm back into the World of Warcraft thing. I think it's because of the expansion and the movie coming out and everything, and I was like, well, I pre-ordered the expansion because I got all the other ones, so I'm like, well, I got to prepare. So, and my server was dead, so I started on a new server, and I got my druid, which, by the way, for anybody that does decide to get into WoW, your main character should be a druid for no other reason, the versatility. They can take all different types of forms. There's swim form, where you get, and it allows you to swim much faster through the water, and you get to breathe underwater automatically and all that. You get flight form, so you don't have to buy a mount for it. You can just, and it's instantaneous, as opposed to where if you have a mount, there's time to cast to be, you know, and all that. And so for gathering and all that stuff, it's much quicker as a druid. And you still get stealth, because when you get cat form, you can go into stealth. So you get stealth, you get underwater, flying. It's just for your main to accomplish a lot of things. It's the most versatile of all the classes. So anyway, I got into 100, and now I'm doing the garrison thing. The garrison is where you have your fortress. You're basically the commander of the forces in Draenor. And you get to build up. There's 3 different levels. I'm at level 3 now on my garrison, and then you also get a fleet, which was new to me when I went back this time. You actually get a fleet to manage too for naval battles and all that stuff, and it's a whole nother game in itself. The garrison, fleet, naval battles, that whole thing. It's just a whole nother thing, and so it's encompassing, and it's designed that way. They designed the time sinks that way to keep you playing, you know. And I'm going to be playing at least through when the next expansion comes out, because I got to see what that's all about. And if I reach the max level after that, I may take a break again. Who knows? So there's World of Warcraft, and on the movie, horrible. It's getting horrible press, horrible reviews, everything else, and I don't care. When you've put in that many hours and days and years into a game, and a franchise, I'm sure that 95% of us that have played World of Warcraft or any of the Warcraft games before World of Warcraft, the original Orcs versus Humans, all that stuff, Frozen Throne, whatever, you know, that they're going to want to see the movie just because they're a fan of the franchise. So even if it's bad, we got to see it. So that leads me into Fallout 4, Far Harbor. So this is the DLC. Far Harbor is the DLC for Fallout 4. And as you know, Fallout 4 was my game of the year last year. I put so many hours into Fallout 4. And then they had smaller DLCs that came out, and I did those and everything. This was a large DLC. I mean, it's a genuine, legit expansion. You know, as we got used to back in the day when you'd get a whole nother expansion and it'd be a new disc that you would have to get and install, and it'd be like a whole second game almost. That's how Far Harbor is. Gotta wet the whistle, hang on. So, well worth the money for Far Harbor. Well worth the money. Great expansion. I like the storyline. I enjoyed there's a lot of new monsters. They're basically just different models of the old ones, but just a lot more powerful, a lot stronger, a lot harder to defeat and everything. You really have to take into consideration that they have certain resists to certain weapons, so you got to use different weapons to try and defeat them and that thing. So there's a few different things there. You get new companions, you get new settlements that you can settle. It's a full-blown legit deal. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. And I finished the story last night at midnight after playing pretty much all day. So finally finished the story. Fantastic. Well worth it if you have Fallout 4 and you haven't bought the DLC or the season pass or whatever. Well worth the money. So that leads us into this is a little bit of gaming news, and I told everybody that people were messaging me and asking me for reaction and all that type of thing. 5th edition D&D. 5th edition D&D, they made an announcement last week that they are coming out with their next campaign, which is going to be, and I don't have the exact name of it. That's not important here. The bottom line is that they've announced, and I'll put a link if you're truly interested and you haven't seen it. I'll put a link to the announcement video in the description below, so you can go check it out. But the bottom line is it's a campaign about the giants, and they're setting it in Forgotten Realms as they have in all the other ones. And it's kind of a bittersweet thing. I said this about the Ravenloft thing, and the Elemental Evil thing. They're using a lot of the old module series from 1st and 2nd edition. They're using those, and then they're revamping them for 5th edition, but they're doing everything in Forgotten Realms. They're not doing anything in Greyhawk, in the world of Greyhawk, which all these original ones were all set in. And of course, you know me and Greyhawk. That's where I take my gamer handle out from, and so this one that they've talked about for the next, and it's supposed to be in September, I think, the next expansion or the next campaign that they're releasing a book for 5th edition. They talked about, it goes hill giants, stone giants, frost giants, fire giants, cloud giants, and storm giants. It's exactly the same progression as from 1st edition. And they even reference it in the release video. But they're doing it in Forgotten Realms. The other thing they announced is Volo's Guide to Monsters. And that is a legit... let me turn off, I gotta turn off this one thing so you guys don't have to hear that. That's a legit throwback to something that truly is Forgotten Realms. Volo was the cartographer, the famous little cartographer that mapped the Forgotten Realms, and he was like a bard, sage type of a deal, and he chronicled everything, and he did all his guides and all that stuff. And I have a ton of them back there, and I'll pull them out and I'll do a video just about the Volo's guides to there's a Volo's guide to Waterdeep, Volo's guide to the Sword Coast, Volo's guide to Cormyr. I mean, it goes on. There's several of them back there, and so now they're doing Volo's Guide to Monsters, which will be a separate book, and I'm fine with that. That's great. I bet it's going to be a great product. Volo, that whole character. And he has a little bit of a rift with Elminster throughout the whole, history of Forgotten Realms. They kind of, not like it is a complete adversarial type thing, but more like a giving each other crap type of a deal, So that, I'm sure that would be fine. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Giants thing, too. I would just love for them to see them say, okay, and the Giants one is particularly... sore spot with me because that's my favorite, and I've done a video before. That's my favorite module series of all time. Is the Giant, the G1, G2, G3 series. Yeah, it's a little bittersweet for me because I wish they would have said for this one we're going to use the World of Greyhawk, and then and then maybe even they could have how they did the. Adventurer's Guide to the Sword Coast, I think, for 5th edition. They could have done Adventurer's Guide to Greyhawk. They could have done a book and introduced people to the world of Greyhawk, and then had this series of modules, this new campaign that they're doing. That's just my opinion. I think that's how they could have done it. Anyway, So that's all the major stuff I wanted to talk about. I do have, I do want to tease a couple of things, a couple of videos I'm working on. You may or may not know that I am part of the new TSR that is out there, TSR Game Company, and we had published the Gygax magazine, and there was a lawsuit involving that, so that had to cease, and I can't talk anymore about that because of that. But anyway, so there was that, and we've got a lot of other stuff we're working on. Our TSR podcast network is very strong. We have multiverse.world, which is our blog. So we got all this stuff, and I'm going to do a separate video to talk all about the TSR stuff, everything that we're doing. But just for full disclosure, I'm part of the company. So just so you know. Okay, that's full disclosure there. And then I'm also I've got another product that I bought on auction that I'm getting. As soon as I get that, I'm going to do another video like I did for the I-Series. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. It'll be a surprise. But I do have another video like that once I get that in the mail. Should be maybe tomorrow or the next day, I hope. And I got another Beer 30. As always, I've got a Beer 30 I'm working on. So that's all stuff that's coming up. Told you it was going to be a long video, 16 minutes. But I got to everything I wanted to talk about. Oh, I didn't. I just saw in my notes when I was talking about Pathfinder. One of my loyal subscribers here asked me about a product called Starfinder, and I had not known it. I'd never even heard of it, so I looked into it, and it's basically going to be Paizo's, who makes Pathfinder, their fantasy future fantasy space type standalone role-playing game. So I'll look into that some more, and we'll talk about some more of that in the future. But thank you to the person, they knew who they are, that tipped me off about Starfinder. I appreciate that. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side.